Hey y'all, welcome back. Um, so we've been talking a lot about grief and working through through processing grief. And so in our last session, we were talking about in John chapter 11 how Lazarus had had just died, and um, how Jesus was on his way um, to meet them. And so today we're going to pick back up there, and we're going to talk about how Mary and Martha both responded to the passing of their brother. Because I think this part of the story reveals something um, pretty incredible about Jesus's heart. Um, so as I kept reading, kept reading, as I kept reading John chapter 11, what really um, struck me was both Mary and Martha were grieving, and like they had both experienced the exact same loss. That was their brother. And so they were both processing through the same exact heartbreak, but yet their responses were similar, but yet they were completely different. So um, when Martha had heard that Jesus was coming, and Lazarus had passed, she immediately went out to meet him. Like, she went straight to Jesus. Like, she didn't wait, she just ran straight to Jesus. And when she got to him, she said, and that was in verse 23. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So can you just hear, like, I can just hear, how honest that response was. Like, she was being completely honest with Jesus. There was disappointment, there was hurt, there was confusion, and like, she didn't try to hide any of it. But after she spoke that, she followed it up with something else. And in the next verse, she says, but I know, that's verse 22. So verse 21 and 22, and verse 22, she says, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. I mean, that's faith. Like, she didn't understand what was happening, or what Jesus was doing. She was just hurting. But even in that hurt, in that pain, she still chose to trust him. And then Jesus responds to Martha by speaking truth to her. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Um, it's and then he goes on to say to her, I like in 25, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Um, like, that's a beautiful conversation between Jesus and Martha. So now let's take a minute and let's look at Mary and the conversation that she has. So scripture tells us that Mary stayed at the house, and it wasn't until Martha came back with a message from Jesus where she came back and she said, the teacher is here and he is asking for you. So when Mary heard that, she got up and she went to him. Like, to me, that's saying that Jesus called, and when he called, Mary responded. But another thing that I wanted to touch on is that there were mourners all around Mary, and when everybody saw her get up quickly, they, like scripture tells us, that they assumed that she was going to the tomb to mourn there. So they thought she was going back to the tomb. Um, so to me, that said they thought she was running back to the very place of her loss. She was going back there to mourn, to sit in her grief. But actually, what she did was she ran straight to Jesus, not back, not back to the tomb, but straight to Jesus. Um, and it says in 32, when Mary reached the place where Jesus was and she saw him, she fell at his feet. Like, that made me stop and think, like, when life gets heavy, you know, it made me wonder, like, start to really look at, where do I run? Like, do I keep going back to the place of pain that I'm carrying, or I'm trying to carry? Do I keep replaying like the conversation? Do I keep sitting at that tomb of what I've lost, or or do I run to Jesus? So whether it's you feel you've lost something, where do you go with that? So picking back up, when Mary reached Jesus, she fell at his feet, and but she followed that up with the exact same words that Martha said. Um, and she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So they both open with the same thing to Jesus. But this time, like, Mary stops right there. She doesn't say anymore. She just stays right there, and she's crying. And Jesus, he meets her right there. Like, it says he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Like, he doesn't say to her, where's your faith? He doesn't, try to tell her to stop crying. Like, he knows everything that's he's about to do, but he doesn't, tell her to stop crying. And what he does is, he meets her right there. Because when it says he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled, and he asked, where have you laid him? And they respond, come and see, Lord. And then in verse 35, it says, like, the very shortest verse, says Jesus wept. Like, he knew everything that was going to happen. Like, he even knew it before he ever even got there. He knew that he was gonna a miracle was coming, and that he knew that Lazarus was going to walk out of that tomb. But yet, before he changed their circumstances, he met Mary right where she was. He entered into her sorrow. Like, he met her right there. Like, so before he changed her circumstances, he met her exactly where she was. And like, I just think that's such a beautiful picture of the heart of God. Like, we see that Jesus responded differently to Martha than he did Mary. And it's not because anything had changed, but it was because he knew each one of them needed something different. Like, so he didn't change how he met them in their need. Changed. Like, he spoke truth to Martha's faith that she had. To Mary, he met her in her sorrow with his presence. I just, I think that's incredible. Like, he didn't have just one response to everyone. It was personal. It was very personal. Like, he met Martha where she was, and he met Mary exactly where she was. And like, he does that the very same thing for us. Like, so whether like we are like Martha in the situation, and like when life starts falling apart and we get up and we run straight to Jesus, like through prayer, through asking him questions, and reading our Bible and clinging to our promise, or whether we respond more like Mary and we're just overwhelmed, and we're not sure where to begin, and like we're sitting and crying, and we just don't have too many words. Jesus meets us exactly where we are. And he's he's not disappointed in our responses. Like, he knows exactly where we are, and exactly what we need in each and every moment. And just like he called for Mary, he calls for each one of us. Like, so whether you see yourself as how Martha responded, or how you see if you see yourself as how Mary responded, you know, Jesus meets you exactly where you are. He knows what you're trying to carry, and he knows exactly what you need, and he'll meet you right there. Like, I think that's incredible. Um, so can I ask one question? Like, when life, truly gets heavy, ask yourself, where do you run? Like, where do I run? Is it that you keep returning to the place of pain, or are you running to the feet of Jesus immediately? Like, and just remember that Jesus will meet you exactly where you are. He's not asking you to pretend that your grief isn't real, and he's not asking you to rush through the process. He's simply asking you to come close to him, to come to him. So just take some time and really sit with him, and talk through those points and those questions. He's not afraid of your questions. So I thank you for joining me today. And I want to leave you with this. Whether you feel more like a Martha or a Mary today, just remember that Jesus knows exactly where you are, and he knows exactly what you're trying to carry, and he knows exactly how to meet you right there. So until next time, keep walking with him. He loves you, and he's there for you, and he's always with you. Have an amazing night.